Hello, welcome to another Gethsemane Presbyterian Church training video. Today's video has to do with creating a YouTube video for display on the TV in our fellowship hall. We're going to go with the process to take the slides from the worship service and export them to export some of those slides to JPEG files and then import them into a video creation piece of software and finally upload those to YouTube. So we're going to go through these steps now. We're going to start with an actual PowerPoint presentation for a service that happens to be March 30th of 2025. And here we are in PowerPoint. And this view is not as helpful for what we're going to do because I don't want to export all of the slides into JPEGs. I only want to export some of the slides. So for that, PowerPoint has something called a slide sorter view. We're going to go to that view now. There we go. And it's obviously too small for you to read on the video, but this gives you a quick thumbnail of all of the slides in the presentation. And a trick that I've learned is if I want to export a particular number of slides, PowerPoint doesn't let you export some slides. It lets you export either one as a JPEG or all slides in the file. And neither one of those is kind of what I want. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to this view and start selecting, and then in Windows use the Control key to select an additional slide. So the first one's already selected, and then we're going to normally do the titles of the hymns. So there's this one, and then we're going to go to the first reading, and then responding to the word, and then second reading, and then the title of the sermon or reflection. And then we have a praise song, and then we have closing hymn, so mostly hymns, of course. And we do always export the ending slide because the credits for the liturgy are at the bottom of this slide, the green one at the bottom. I know you can't read it, but there it is. Once I have all of the slides that I wish selected, I then copy and paste them into a new PowerPoint file. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to that file now. And then I'm going to show this in that special view, the slide sorter view. You can see now that there are far fewer slides. This is just the ones I've chosen to export for today. And so now my trick is that I can do File. I don't even save the file as PowerPoint. I just have it, but I'm going to do a Save As. And here's a trick I use. I name it TV Slides, and then I go find where I'm going to put it. And in my case, I'm going to put it under the worship for this day. And what's really nice about this is that when I say I'm saving it as a JPEG and I name it TV Slides and I hit save, it says, which slide do you want to export? Well, I want all slides. And what it does is it actually creates a folder called TV Slides and puts all the files there. And I don't think I have I'll try to call up an Explorer window to show you that now. Okay, now that I've saved these to file, I'm going to switch over to the window where it's located. And this is the parent folder, which happens to be the date of the worship service. And then this is the folder that PowerPoint created called TV Slides. And I open it up, and there's all the slides that I selected. And it just names them slide1.jpg, slide2.jpg, etc. But that's exactly what we need for right now. So now that we have the images we want to put into our video, it's time to fire up the video application, which in my case is a program that I've been happy with called vidmix.app. So we're going to jump to that. And vidmix.app is actually a website, and it does allow you to upload and create files that will be exported to a movie. I'm going to start off with last week's file because there's some nice animation that I did in it. And there's one more file I need to create before we go forward. So let me actually switch over to the other window here. This is our church's Google Calendar, and it's been set to what's called schedule mode. So it doesn't look like a rectangular calendar. It actually just has a list. And I'm going to capture a piece of that using um, Windows snipping tool. If you're on a Mac, you could use a different method, but I'm going to select from the 30th down to, I typically go about a month out. So I'll go through May 4th in this case. And I'm going to make it a little bit wider than I need, and you'll see why, because I'm going to be trimming it back in the video. So that's about right. And now I've captured that area. You can't see this, but I'm actually saving it to File. And I'm going to save it to the same location, the PPT Slides file. And I'm going to name it Calendar. And it's a PNG file. So you can't see that on the video, but you'll see that in a moment. So now we'll go back to our VidMix program. So at this point, it's a blank canvas, and I'm going to go ahead and load the most recent version of this that I had saved. And that's at the upper left-hand corner of the menu is Save Project to File, Load Project from File. And it simply loads. In my case, I'm going to get it from I think it's my download. So I take the most recent one. There we go. Now in this case, this is last week's video, and so it has last week's slides and things in it. I'm changing the area. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the lowest, what's called the base track down here. That is this logo image, and it actually has something clever in it, which you'll see in a second. I've added a transition. Do you see the green diamonds at the bottom of the screen? They're kind of hard to see, but these two green diamonds have to do with I've set this image up to move to the lower right-hand corner of the video. And as I move, actually I'll just show the animation. As it goes forward in time, you'll see it slide down and park down below there. And then everything else comes in. So that's what's going to happen in our video. But we're going to substitute, instead of the calendar you see here at the upper right, we're going to drop in our calendar. So I'm going to delete that image. I'm going to open File, and we're going to open up from our PPT Slides the calendar image. Open. So this is how VidMix works. You basically have different images that are part of your video stream, and when that image is visible, you can see here this blue piece, that's the current calendar. If the timeline of the video goes beyond that, then that object is no longer visible. Well, in my case, I want the calendar to be visible the entire time, except for at the very beginning. So I'm going to slide the calendar over to start right about there, and I'm going to stretch it so that it's the entire length. And we'll come back and trim it later depending on how many slides we have. So that says how long you want to see it. And now it's still highlighted here. So this is, where do you want to put it? And in my case, I want to put it in the upper right-hand corner. And there. Oops. Now that's too big, so I've got to trim it a little bit. And I'm going to go grab the lower right-hand corner. And then this piece of software, it's not the easiest to get around. Let's see, I want to, well, I'll just start by shrinking it, and then I'll drag it back into place. So there we go. Shrink it, drag it into place. And now you can see I can shrink it a little bit more until it's just about the right size. And then I'll use this to trim it back. That's why I had extra white space over there. So now the calendar is in place. It'll be there for most of the video. And that's this upper strip in white. You see at the bottom, I've got 3 rows. I've got the bottom row is the logo. The middle row is where all the different slides are going to go. And the top row is right now the calendar. And the row has to do with the stacking order. So if you have something that's on top, it'll show up on top of it. So we'll pay attention to that. In my case, none of the items overlap, so it really doesn't matter. So now we're going to go start grabbing the slides from our presentation. But a couple of things we're going to keep from the old one. So for example, this is the QR code for our announcements, and that doesn't change from week to week. So I'm going to keep that slide in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing in the new slides and pasting them into the place where the old slides are. One artifact of VidMix is simply that the old slides that come in, sometimes they show up as themselves. You can see the color images here, but other times they just show up as black in this row. They're still there. It just, I don't know why. It just shows up as black. So this particular image on the timeline is just a black file. So we're going to replace, this is last week, so we're going to replace it with this week's. So how do you do that? You simply go up here to the Open File menu of VidMix. And in this case, I want slide 1. Whoops, wrong week. So we're going to go to this week and go to TV Slides. And there we go, slide 1, open. And I just realized that I brought in the wrong calendar because I reached into the wrong folder. So we're going to fix that in a minute. Here's going to be slide 1, and it showed up on this top row, and that's fine. We're going to move it around. I'm going to grab the old slide and delete that. And we're going to drop this one into its place. And you'll have to get used to the way it's a little twitchy for sliding things around. And at this point, it's in the right place, but it hasn't been sized. And the way I've got this, it has some kind of defaults that'll snap to. In this case, all my slides are 4:3 ratio, so they'll fit like that. And now I've got to go fix the calendar because I brought in the wrong one. So I'm going to take the calendar. I'll go ahead and I'm just going to shorten it. Then I'm going to bring in the new one, and then that way it's in the right spot. So I'm going to open file and bring in this month's calendar, this week's calendar. There it is. I'm going to slide it. Oh, that's right. I already agreed it's too big. And I'll shrink it down a little bit. Bring it in, stick it in this upper left-hand corner of the right-hand side. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. There we go. And then trim back what I needed. Boom. Now it's the correct calendar. So that's here. So I'm going to drop it in front of this one. Now I'm going to select the old calendar and delete it. And then this one, I'm going to move it around and then stretch it the entire length of our video. And this whole video is like 1.5 minutes long because each one, the default comes in at about 5 seconds per. I started trying to stretch the timelines on those to longer, but it was such a pain because you can't stretch a bunch of them at the same time. You have to actually stretch each one. So I've just left it at the default of about 5 seconds. Okay, so what have we done? We've loaded in the first slide, and that is this week's slide number 1. This next slide, we're going to move over to where we can see it. I'm keeping in place. It's the announcement slide. I don't need to change that. Now we are going to delete this next slide because we're done with that activity. And that, let's delete here. And similarly, I think that's the Spanish version. Nope, that's Mr. Rogers from last week. We're going to delete him too. So we're going to go ahead and pop in slide number 2 from our current one, which is the opening hymn. There it is. And again, using this VidMix app, it sticks it up here on another row because it doesn't know where you want it. I really want it to be down here on this row. And like I said, it's a little twitchy, but they kind of snap into place. And so now we can see it. And now we're going to put it into the right location like this. And it snaps into place. And we're going to do this over and over until all of the different slides are in, and we make sure we delete the slides that we don't want. Okay, I've jumped ahead a little bit in time just to see where we are. I have deleted all of the slides from last week that I don't need because like last week's hymns, last week's prayers, I've left in a couple of placeholders. In this case, we keep the same song that we sing in between our scripture readings. We change it out once a month. So in this case, I've kept that particular slide in place, and when we have to move things around to fit. And then you can see this gap on either side. That's where I deleted all the old slides. And then near the end is where, once again, we have slides we're going to reuse. In this case, it's our offertory QR codes and then the long-term prayer list. So those have not changed. So now I'm going to come back. I guess I don't have to, this is just the blue slider is wherever the video is. I'm going to pause for a minute now and reload all of the other slides from this week's presentation and pick up the video from there. Okay, picking it back up again, one thing I have just learned, you live and learn about this software, is that right now, as you can see, the slider is in the middle of in this case, the reading from Luke. And the arrows up above jump to the next event in the timeline. In this case, it's the end of this slide. So watch this. I'm going to click the forward button, and it moves the time cursor there. And now, when I open up and bring in another file, if I'm right, I think it will bring it in right at the right spot. Open. Well, it brought it in at the right location, but it's on the wrong row. Technically, it probably doesn't matter because the way that the rows go, it'll still show. But I want to bring it down into this particular row. And there we go. So now, and as always, it comes in at a default location in the center of the image. And so we move it up to, it snaps into the upper corner. And then you stretch it and it kind of snaps into place when it hits the bottom. All right, so I'm going to keep on loading slides at this point and we'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, I've loaded all of the slides from today's file and I wanted to do a little more cleanup here. Usually when I bring in a slide, it snaps to its neighbor. In some cases it doesn't quite fit, and in this case you'll notice I've got a gap down here. You see the black shape. So when the timeline gets to that point, all the information disappears. We don't want that. So typically, it doesn't really matter if these are exactly the same length or whatever. So typically, I'm going to grab the slide on either side of it and just slide it to close the gap. And it does snap into place there, so it should be a fairly clean transition. And then speaking of transitions, it's up to you how fancy you want to make this. Right now, they're just jumping from one image to the next. You'll notice a black triangle occasionally in my timeline. That's where I've defined a transition from one slide to the next. So I'm going to do that now for this one just to show it tell. So we're here, we've selected this image, which is the scripture reading. And on the side, there's a transition menu way over here. And transition in, how do you want it to transition in? I always pick this second item and then a duration, and I do about 1 1/3 seconds, whatever, right around there. And that has now added this triangle, and we'll watch how that happens now. So it goes from this one, gonna hit play, and it jumps, it kind of transitions in. It wasn't terribly smooth actually, but I want to make sure I didn't miss something here. Is there, if I go forward, click, there is a tiny jump where they don't quite touch. That's subtle, but it's going to be annoying on the video. So, see if I can make it jump over the gap. Well, it should work. Sorry, it's just kind of like cleanup. Okay, we're going to hit play. Well, again, this is not a production video. I can do this to the rest if I want. It's just kind of time consuming. Don't have to do it. You can have things jump with no transition or without a, in my case, I'm using a fade. And like I said last, I got about 1.4 seconds of fade. So if you look carefully, you'll notice that the middle row, which is the content of the slides, I don't have as many as I'd had before because I don't have any announcements this week. So what happened was the calendar is running too long and the logo is running too long. So I don't want to, at the end of the video, I don't want to have this happen where it just runs out of content. So I'm going to trim back those 2 rows. In this case, the calendar row, make sure you grab the trim and not the move. And so that kind of snaps to the end. And similarly, the logo, you select it and you slide back until it kind of stops. And they might not be perfect, but it's close enough. There. And now they're all ending at about the same time. And now we're ready to do two things. First, I like to save the file to make sure in case I have to reconstruct it if anything goes wrong. So up here at the upper left-hand corner, I've got Save Project to File. It doesn't give you a choice of file name or where. It just downloads it to your Downloads folder. And so there it is. And now, I guess technically I should probably do a quick run through before I save it. I export it. So I grab the blue timeline and go all the way to the front. And I can even use the left arrows. And then I hit play. And so for 1 minute, it's going to go through. And then there's the cute little animation I did. In comes the calendar and the slides. And each slide takes about 5 seconds. So this is what it's going to look like on the TV set. Yeah, that was one without a transition in that case. Transition's pretty subtle, so it's not a big deal. Okay, etc., etc. Now we're going to export. I've made no other changes. So up here at the upper corner, it has export, and I keep it at the default. I'm going to do an MP4 file, and I'm going to click OK. It's asking me for a file name. In this case, I still use the name TV Slides.mp4. See if you can see that. No, I'm not showing it that. Okay, so we're going to hit save. And now it goes into its creating video mode. So when it's done, I'll come back and I'll show you how I put it up onto YouTube. Okay, as you can see, VidMix is done. It is completed creating the video file. Just hit OK, and we exit the app. And now we'll switch over to YouTube. So I'm going to switch over here to okay, when we last left off, we had saved the video project to an MP4 file, and now we want to upload it to YouTube. And to do that, you have to have an account with YouTube that has the ability to create files using their Creator Studio. That's a free capability, but you have to basically enable that. So we're going to go to YouTube on, in our case, the correct account. And we're going to, on the left-hand side under Your Videos. So now I'm in a tab here called YouTube Creator Studio. And this is a quirk of playing this back on a TV set. TV YouTube has a fewer features. In particular, you cannot loop a video file on the TV, but you can loop a playlist. So what we do is we create a playlist for that Sunday. A playlist is a collection of video files. And then we put a single video file into that playlist, and then we loop the playlist, which has the effect of looping the video. So it's an annoyance, but there you go. So you can see my nomenclature from previous months on this or weeks on this. It has, I name it TV Slides. So this is the videos. We're now going to go to the playlists, and you'll see I have Gethsemane Worship and then the date, in this case last week. So I'm going to create a new playlist. I believe that's up here under Create, New Playlist. Now you notice I haven't uploaded the video yet. We'll do that in a moment. You can either upload the video first or create the playlist first. I'm going to choose to create the playlist first. So add title, I'm going to say Gethsemane Worship 2025 0330 slides from the worship service at Gethsemane Presbyterian Church. Public is okay. We're not going to add videos right now because I haven't uploaded it. We're just going to create the playlist first. Create. And now we'll do the add videos. So we're going to click add videos, upload new video, and I'm going to go to my file explorer and drag and drop the one I created Now it's uploading. And now on YouTube Creator Studio, you have to go through a few hoops before the video is ready to play. Wants to know a title. I'm going to say TV Slides 2025-03. Oops, don't like dashes, so we'll just do 0330. And again, same kind of idea. Worship service slides. Um, you can, and I recommend uploading a file. You can either, for this, I'm sorry, for the uh, title, for the image, I always take our logo for the current year. So that's a thumbnail, sorry, that it'll show up in the video stream. Now it's still working on the video. It's still making sure I haven't put anything inappropriate. Then it says, do you want to add this to a playlist? And I said, yes. And of course, this is the one that I'm in. So that's the one I want. I always say no, it's not made for kids because there's special rules you have to go through if you're making a video for kids. But in our case, there's nothing that's not appropriate for kids. And then we go next. Video elements, I never add any of these subtitles or an end screen or whatever. Next is it's doing the checks and it couldn't find any problems, which is good. Next, and then I want to make it public. And this will be a link if you want to send it to somebody. It copies the link to the video. But again, this is to the video, and we're actually going to be viewing the playlist on the TV set. So I think we're ready to go. So publish. Once again, it gives me a link if I want to copy it. I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to hit close. And now I have a playlist with one video in it. And at this point, the video I'm making for you doesn't really help because I have to show the rest on a TV set. But effectively, you log into YouTube on your TV set, and then you go to playlists, and then you select the playlist, and there's a button that has a couple of arrows that are kind of going in a circle or a rectangle, and that means I want you to loop this playlist, and you do that, and then on your TV set on the YouTube app, it will replay that video. So I hope this has been instructional, and we'll see you in our next video series, whatever that will be.